Wow, today we saw good football. And sometimes you have to sit there and admit, as a rival fan, while I don't like to see it and I don't like to watch it, they are simply incredible. The performance from Arsenal today was outstanding. They were all over Newcastle. They could have been 4-0 up at half time. The energy from them to be playing in midweek, have a bit of a slump, and then to come out like that. Martinelli's desire to run in behind, Martinelli's desire to keep the ball in play, the sprints in behind was fantastic. And the football Arsenal played, how free-flowing, how quick they were moving the ball direct, eager to attack, amazed me, because people seem to forget that Newcastle are a good team. I know they haven't been great this season because they've been hit badly with injury problems, but I think Newcastle have got some really good players. They're a really good side, and they beat Man City, they beat United in the Cup, they beat Arsenal at home. They're not an easy team to beat, and they've given a lot of the top teams hard game this season. They went and beat Aston Villa at their ground not that long ago, and that's because something about Newcastle is they're one of the most athletically good teams. They always run. But today, Arsenal went and just showed Newcastle levels when it came to effort and energy off the pitch. The runs that they made, they were simply incredible. I want to talk about Jorginho, what he added. I want to talk about Rice. I want to talk about set pieces. I want to talk about a lot of things, but I think we have to start by talking about Bukayo Saka. I mean, this guy, a lot of people are debating if he's world-class or not, but today he was simply world-class. This season, these last months since the January return, he has been world-class. And I think other than Liverpool, because of Mo Salah, what side does Bukayo Saka not start for? If you think he starts right wing for any team in the world bar Liverpool, surely Bukayo Saka is world-class now. Surely he is, because he's getting the numbers, but even when he doesn't get goals and assists, his all-round game has always been good. He's very direct. He's very good at taking on people. He's very good at making things happen. Surely he is in the world-class thing. And I want to read a statistic quickly before I talk about Saka, just to back up how good Arsenal have been. Arsenal become the first team in Premier League history to score 2+ goals in seven consecutive halves of football. In the last 7 halves of football they've played, which is 3.5 games, they've scored 2 goals in every single one of them, showing just how dominant they've been, how attacking they've been, how energetic they've been. And when I watched Arsenal today, the football they played was simply incredible. The football they played was simply brilliant. And I don't like to say that because I'm a Manchester United fan, but they were so good to watch. I almost was sitting on my seat like, this is really good to watch. Even though I wanted Newcastle to win, I was like, this is really good to watch, this energy, this everything. And Saka's one of those players I look at, and he's been really good to watch. And I think at moments this season, he hasn't been as good to watch. Maybe he was exhausted, maybe he's overrun. But to have scored or assisted 20 goals in the Premier League, which only Salah, Watkins and Haaland have more than, that's a top category to be at as a winger. In an Arsenal side where you could argue Arsenal's attack haven't been as good this season. Arsenal's attack hasn't been as free-flowing this season. Obviously, since the January break, there's no attack has been better than Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal, since they've come back from that Dubai trip, have probably had the best attack in the world. But a lot of Arsenal fans were complaining early in January and December that the attack hadn't clicked. It wasn't as free-flowing. It wasn't as good. And Saka was getting 20 goal contributions when he's basically been worn down to the ground. In an Arsenal side where the attack only just started clicking. And now the attack started clicking, Saka's scoring and assisting every single game. He's becoming Mr. Unstoppable. And I think Saka's one of those players that I don't understand why people dislike him. Not only does he work incredibly hard for the team, not only does he press, not only is his off the ball work good, not only does he provide movement that creates space for opposition. He can link up, do those quick 1-2s. He's quick. He can run in behind. He's a threat on the transition. But he's a great creator. He created 1 big chance today. He created 2 chances. He got a goal, 20+ goals and assists in the Premier League. His all-round game is good. His numbers is good. He can take on players 1v1. He can go outside. He can go inside players. He can drive in those low crosses. He can create. He can go into the half space. He can shoot. His ball striking is good. His ability to find space, attack space, running behind. But his intent to attack, to score, to make things happen is what truly makes Saka an elite player for me. And I thought that he was absolutely fantastic today. And another player that I think was absolutely fantastic today, who isn't always a regular start for Arsenal, but was Jorginho. I think that Jorginho-Rice pivot works really, really well today. I thought Declan Rice was phenomenal as always. And I feel like we don't talk about Declan Rice as much now because it's just become the norm for him to put in these ridiculous, games and be so good. But Jorginho today was fantastic. And I think you could argue he was probably man of the match when you look at the more details on his statistics, like most final third passes completed in 24, most passes completed in 91, and most touches completed. He completely ran the show. You look at his pass map, him and Rice just completely ran that midfield, and they dominated the midfield. And, Newcastle, Lewis Miley's a good player. Yes, he's inexperienced, but he's a good player. Bruno Guimaraes is a really, really good player, but Arsenal completely dominated that game. Like, I thought Newcastle was going to give Arsenal a difficult game. I really did. Because I think even though they've got injuries and they've not been as good this season, Newcastle's still a good side. They always give the big sides difficult games. But the way that Arsenal dominated and ran that game, I was really surprised, because I expected a lot better from Newcastle personally myself. And I have to say, Jorginho was, I think, key for Arsenal having that control and dominance in midfield, which just meant that it was constant pressure from Arsenal onto the other teams. And I don't like looking at statistics, because my team, Man United, will be right there at the bottom. And I don't know how well you'll see this, but right at the top is Arsenal. And this is the defensive quality in terms of how many deep entries you can see, to how many times the opponent's, running into your box, and how many shots you concede. And Arsenal, not only clean sheets wise and defensive record wise, are the best team, but looking at more metrics, Arsenal are the best defensive team in the league this season. Not only are they clicking an attack, scoring mad amounts of goals, but they're up there with Leverkusen. They're above Man City, they're above Leverkusen, they're above Bayern Munich in terms of like how well they've defended, least goals conceded, sort of defensive entries, how good their defense has been this season. A big part of that is Declan Rice's ability to stop transitions. He's like an interception monster, Declan Rice. His ability to read the game and position himself, but also the quality of Saliba, the quality of Gabriel, of course, Ben White's been really, really good at inverting in recent games. But Arsenal, as you can see by statistics, again, the defensive quality is very much known. They've got the best defensive quality stats-wise, and I think there's never been any question marks around Arsenal's defence this season. I think that it's been solid. There was always question marks around the attack. There was always question marks around this one guy called Kai Havertz, and the more and more I see Kai Havertz play, the more and more I'm realising, you know what? We're slowly starting to see that by Leverkusen Kai Havertz. Him in the false nine position today, because I think he's more of a false nine than a midfielder, because he doesn't really do loads in possession. It's the out of possession work that he does. And I think in midfield, you want that extra body in possession. I think Havertz, for me, is more of a false nine. But I think in certain games where Arsenal are going to be playing against the Sheffield United, play Havertz in midfield. But we saw Havertz's quality today. This was just his first half numbers. 100% chance conversion, 100% aerial duels won, 88% pass accuracy, one shot, one goal. He was really causing problems there in behind. He's always getting into the right spaces. And I think that we're seeing the Havertz that you saw it by Leverkusen before. He sort of was ruined by Chelsea. I hate to say that because it sounds like such a troll Twitter account going, oh, Havertz was ruined by Chelsea. But it does feel like Havertz was ruined by Chelsea, if we're being honest, because the guy at Bayer Leverkusen was an absolute beast. And when I saw Havertz today, his ability to find pockets of space, his ability to make those nuisance runs that defenders hate to mark, and not that I'm comparing Havertz to McTominay, but I always just do United references because I watch United way more than the other team. Is like McTominay would make those nuisance runs and it would be impossible for defenders to predict and mark him. And I think Havertz becomes a nuisance for oppositions in a similar sense of his off-the-ball movement is really good in drawing out defenders and creating space for his opponents. He's always involved in nearly every goal Arsenal play, whether it's directly or indirectly. But also he's so clever when you think about it in terms of reading the game. He knows when to get on the end of things. He knows when to cause a problem. He gives Arsenal an outlet. Arsenal can dominate the ball because they've got all these midfielders in midfield, but also they can play long because they've got Havertz, the physical structure in attack, which just gives Arsenal, again, a massive advantage. And I thought Kai Havertz had been really good lately. And I'm just looking through my notes about what I wrote about Arsenal, because I do want to get into Martinelli, but I've wrote that Arsenal have now scored 11 goals from corners and they're the best set-piece team in the Premier League. Declan Rice has been banging it from corners. I spoke about how good Saka was, how he just makes such a difference as well, how he's mentally good, how he works hard, how, he's massive for Arsenal when he always puts in a shift. Spoke about how good Jorginho was, how him and Rice played really, really well. And I thought Jorginho was the difference maker tonight. And the way that Jorginho passes and crosses and moves the ball, it looks so good. It's mad to think that Chelsea have shipped off Jorginho and Havertz and how good they were for Arsenal today when you look at where Chelsea are at. But I said about Havertz, I think he's becoming more influential. And I think he's starting to look a little bit more like that Bayer Leverkusen Havertz, where he's going into that false nine role and he's becoming a threat. And all in all, to summarise my review before I get into Martinelli, who, to be honest, you could argue Martinelli was really up there with a great performance. There's statistics there. That first half from Arsenal particularly, the way they came out with the intensity from the first whistle to attack to pin Newcastle back, That didn't look like Newcastle that came fourth last season. That looked like Championship side. They made Newcastle look bad. And they were like pushing and pushing and pushing. That the only negative you could say about Arsenal at first half is why weren't they 4-0 up? Raya was terrific. You can see what Raya had to build up. Ben White has been very good. Saliba's been good. Gabriel's been good. Kiwior, I mean, he got the goal. What was it, a goal for him? He was good. Declan Rice just does every week. Jorginho is saying, look, I'm a starter in the field. Play, put Havertz in attack. Odegaard was great as always. Saka just cooked them up. Martinelli was fantastic. And I looked at Arsenal, and the reason I was jealous is because every single Arsenal player today was incredible. And it wasn't that Arsenal won 4-1. It was that Arsenal, literally, the performance, the football, the way they played was so good that sometimes you have to sit there and admit it. Like, that was a title statement. Thank you for watching. Smash a like.